Welcome to AI, the Artificial Incontinence, where we perform dramatic readings of AI written slop. And today I've asked ChatGPT to write me a 5-minute story about a guy who dives into a ball pit only to find a completely alien world. And so we have The Ball Pit Beyond Tuesday. I didn't mean to discover another world. I meant to avoid a phone call. You know the kind. The one that starts with just circling back and ends with your soul leaving your body. So I ducked into a place I hadn't entered since I was 8 years old. A slightly suspicious indoor play center wedged between a tax office and a store that only sells decorative gourds. It smelled like nostalgia. It also smelled like disinfectant. There were no children, just one blinking arcade machine, a lonely slide, and there it was, the ball pit. Glorious, untouched, a shimmering sea of plastic spheres in colors that do not occur in nature. The perfect hiding spot. I checked over my shoulder, took a deep breath, and dove. Now, I expected the usual. A soft landing, mild regret, maybe a wedged elbow. What I did not expect was depth. I kept falling. The balls swallowed me like I'd offended them. Ooh, interesting phrasing there. Blue, red, yellow. They parted. They multiplied, then became something else entirely. The light dimmed, the air hummed. My brain suggested, helpfully, that this was not OSHA compliant. Then I landed, but not in plastic, in grass. Soft, glowing, slightly humming grass that tickled my ears, which is odd because ears don't usually feel ticklish from grass unless the grass is actively trying. I sat up. The sky above me was polka dotted. Not stars. Dots. Floating. Blinking. Rearranging themselves like they were deciding what kind of sky they wanted to be today. And scattered across the landscape, giant spheres. Ball pit balls. But now they were the size of houses. Okay, I said to no one. Either I hit my head, or I finally unlocked whatever this week is. Not sure what that means. A ball rolled towards me. Not rolled, actually. Approached. Like it had intent. It stopped a few feet away, wobbled, then split open like a yawn. Is yawning splitting open? I mean, I guess your mouth splits open, but it's more of just like a gaping maw rather than a split. Anyway, inside was a creature, maybe? It looked like if a jellyfish and a marshmallow had a very optimistic child. Oh, that sounds fun. That sounds like a squishy little delicious treat. It blinked at me using what I assume were eyes, but could have been enthusiastic freckles. Visitor, it chimed, its voice sounding like a xylophone being politely excited. From above or from beneath? I blinked back. From the pit? It gasped. Actually gasped. A pit diver! Oh, we love a pit diver. Very rare. Usually they bounce and leave. I didn't bounce, I said. We noticed, it said, delighted. You committed. That's very important around here. It hopped out of its ball, its shell, and gestured for me to follow. What is this place? I asked, standing up. This, it said, sweeping a gelatinous limb across the horizon, is Balanthra, realm of the rolling, home of the spheres, an occasional sight of mildly confusing physics. Always triplets, ChatGPT. Always triplets. Of course it is, I said. We walked. Or it wiggled. I walked. Through fields of softly glowing grass, giant balls drifted lazily overhead like contemplative planets. Some bounced gently in the distance, making a sound like laughter muffled through a pillow. "What do you do here?" I asked. "Oh, all sorts of things," it said. "We explore, we roll, we discover new colors. Last week we invented slightly more blue. Very exciting." Slightly more blue? I guess my puny human brain can't comprehend that. Sounds productive. "It's not about productivity," it said, pausing to look at me with genuine concern. "It's about curiosity. Do you not have that where you're from?" I hesitated. "We do, we just schedule it. Between emails." It made a noise that might have been sympathy or indigestion. We crested a hill, and I saw it. A vast expanse of balls stretching farther than I could see, each one unique. Some shimmered, some pulsed. Oh no, I don't like where this is going. Some seemed to contain tiny weather systems. One had what looked suspiciously like a small jazz band inside. "Every sphere holds something different," my guide said. "A possibility, a question, sometimes a sandwich. You never know until you dive." "Dive into those?" I pointed. "Of course. That's how you learn." I laughed. "I think I've done enough diving for one day." It tilted its squishy head. "Isn't that what brought you here?" I opened my mouth to answer, and stopped. Because it was. I hadn't come here on purpose, but I had jumped. I'd taken a ridiculous, childish, completely unnecessary leap into something unknown, just to avoid a phone call. And look where it got me. I stepped closer to one of the spheres. It was deep, swirling green, like a forest thinking about becoming a storm. "What's in this one?" I asked. My guide wiggled. "Only one way to find out." I looked back at the polka dot sky, at the endless field of possibilities, at the strange, wonderful creature who thought slightly more blue was a major achievement. I mean, inventing a new color is a pretty big achievement. I still think our human brains can't comprehend what slightly more blue must be. Maybe I need eyes like a mantis shrimp or something to see outside the realm of what humans can see, but I think a new color would be a pretty big deal. "All right," I said. "One more dive." I ran forward and leapt. For a moment, there was only color, motion, possibility. And then I burst back up through the plastic balls, landing ungracefully in the same slightly suspicious play center. Silence. The phone in my pocket buzzed. The call. I looked at it, then at the ball pit, then back at the phone. I declined the call. Not forever, just for now. Because somewhere, beneath a few feet of plastic and a questionable cleaning schedule, there was an entire world waiting for someone willing to jump without knowing what was at the bottom. And maybe, just maybe, that's the point. I climbed out of the pit, brushing off bits of static cling adventure. At the door, I paused. Then I turned back, grinned, and said to absolutely no one, "See you tomorrow." And I meant it. And now for the thrilling sequel. We have Goldorp and the Multiverse of mildly questionable decisions. I went back the next day. Not because I'm brave, let's not get carried away. I went back because I couldn't stop thinking about it. About the sky with polka dots. About the jazz band inside a ball. About a creature who thought slightly more blue was a breakthrough on par with electricity. I mean, that's the third time it's mentioned it. I think a new color would be a big deal. I really do. Maybe I'm weird. Also, if I'm being honest, I still hadn't returned that phone call. Oh man, this guy, he's gonna have some angry people waiting for him. The play center looked exactly the same. Dim lighting, vague stickiness, a front desk that suggested someone once worked there and simply evaporated. They got so bored they just ceased to be. The ball pit sat quietly in the corner, pretending to be harmless. I pointed at it. "I know what you are now," I said. It did not respond, which felt suspicious. I can only imagine someone watching this guy just talking to a ball pit, just in a room, in an arcade, by himself, just talking to a ball pit, standing there, and then jumping in. I took a breath and jumped. This time, I didn't panic when I kept falling. I didn't flail. I didn't question my life choices. Well, not too much. I just let the colors swallow me again, the hum returning like a familiar song. Then, grass, glowing, slightly judgmental. "Visitor," chimed a familiar voice. "Repeat customer." I sat up, grinning. "Goldorp!" There he was, my favorite marshmallow jellyfish hybrid, popping out of a nearby sphere like he'd been waiting there all day. "You came back," he said, bouncing in what I can only describe as enthusiastic gelatin. Enthusiastic gelatin. I think maybe I'll make something tomorrow night. I'll make some Jell-O and I'll call it enthusiastic gelatin. "You told me to explore," I said. Felt rude not to. "Excellent manners," he said. "We value that highly. Right after curiosity and the ability to roll downhill without screaming." I'm working on the last one. Goldorp wiggled closer. "So, what would you like to discover today? We've got new spheres, old spheres, and one that might be a soup." Spherical soup. I stood, brushing glowing grass off my shirt. Glowing grass is a really difficult phrase to say. That's just the alliteration there is very difficult to say. I stood, brushing glowing grass off my shirt. "Actually, I have a question." Goldorp gasped. He gasps a lot. "A question? My favorite kind of thing." "You said every sphere holds something different," I said. "A possibility. A question." "Yes." "So, how many are there?" Goldorp paused. Not in a confused way, in a dramatic way. He slowly turned, gesturing toward the endless horizon of spheres stretching in every direction, some floating, some rolling, some doing what I can only describe as an interpretive dance. "How many?" he echoed. Then he leaned in. "All of them." I blinked. "That's not a number." "It is here." "That's deeply unhelpful." Goldorp giggled, which sounded like wind chimes that had just heard a good joke. "All right," he said. "I will explain in a way your brain can wobble around." A little bit insulting and condescending. "Goldorp, I thought you would be better than that." He pointed upward. The polka dot sky shifted, the dots rearranging themselves into something bigger, patterns within patterns. The sky had suddenly remembered it was part of a much larger sky. "This is not just Balanthra," Goldorp said. "This is a doorway." "To where?" I asked. He looked at me like I'd just asked where up goes. "To everywhere." I crossed my arms. "Okay, you're just gonna have to unpack that." Goldorp bounced excitedly. "Each sphere is a world, a vision, a possibility. Some are very similar to yours. Same you, different breakfast. Some are wildly different. No gravity, sentient sandwiches, Tuesdays that last for years. Years of Tuesday, I said? That's concerning. Very productive for meetings, Goldorp said. I stared out at the spheres again, my brain doing that thing where it tries to understand something and instead just makes a quiet dial-up noise. You're saying this ball pit, I gestured vaguely upward toward the world I came from, is an entrance to all of that. Yes, Goldorp said. A very good entrance, too. Soft landing, bright colors, minimal existential dread. Minimal? I repeated. Well, we try. I took a step toward a nearby sphere. This one shimmered like liquid sunlight, warm and inviting. So if I jump into that, I said slowly, I go to another world. Yes. And I can come back? Usually. I turned. Usually? Goldorp waved a wiggly limb. Details. Exploration is mostly details. What does that mean? I laughed. I couldn't help it. This was ridiculous, impossible, completely, wonderfully absurd. And yet, I'd already done it once. I looked at Goldorp. Do you ever get scared? He tilted his head. Of what? Of not knowing what's in the next sphere. Goldorp thought about it. Then he smiled. Well, he did something that felt like a smile. Not knowing is the best part, he said. If you already knew, it wouldn't be exploring. It would just be walking. I let that sit for a moment. Back home, everything was schedules and plans and calls I didn't want to take, predictable and safe. Here, anything could be inside that glowing sphere. A forest, a storm, a world where I finally remembered to do my taxes on time. ChatGPT is very aware that it's now the beginning of April. All right, I said. Goldorp perked up. All right? All right, I repeated. Let's do something mildly questionable. He gasped, again with the gasping. My favorite kind of decision. I took a few steps back, lining myself up with a shimmering sphere. Any advice? I asked. Goldorp nodded, seriously. Yes. Commit. I grinned, and then I ran, and then I jumped. As the world dissolved into light and motion and possibility, I heard Goldorp call after me. Try not to land in soup. No promises, because somewhere out there, inside a ball, inside a question, inside a choice I didn't fully understand, was another world. And for the first time in a long time, I couldn't wait to find it. And now we have the conclusion of this trilogy, titled, Did I Dream It? Or Did the Ball Pit Dream Me? Ooh, that's deep. I landed hard. Not in soup, which felt like a win. And unless it's like clam chowder or something, or French onion soup, I would love to land in a giant pool of that. Assuming it's, a reasonable temperature, maybe like hot tub temperature, not boiling hot. But also, not in glowing grass, or a shimmering world, or a universe made of possibilities. I landed on something much less magical. Carpet. Sticky. Questionably patterned. Definitely from the 90s carpet. Uh-oh, are we in the back rooms? I groaned and rolled onto my back. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The faint sound of an arcade machine played the same 3 notes on repeat, like it had given up on life, but kept going out of habit. Oof. I feel that, like it had given up on life, but kept going out of habit. I mean, that's just called adulthood. That's at least what we call it in our universe. I sat up. The ball pit was right there. Normal sized, innocent, plastic spheres in primary colors, doing absolutely nothing suspicious. Nope, I said, pointing at it. I don't trust you anymore. My neck cracked as I stood. Everything felt real. Too real. No glowing grass, no polka dot sky, no interdimensional spheres filled with jazz bands or theoretical soup. Just me in an empty arcade, probably having fallen asleep mid-escape from responsibility. I fell asleep, I muttered. That made sense. Of course it did. I'd been stressed, avoiding phone calls, diving headfirst into a ball pit like a perfectly reasonable adult. My brain had taken that and said, cool, let's make a whole universe out of it. Goldorp, Balanthra, the Multiverse. A dream. A really weird, very specific dream, but still just a dream. I rubbed my face and laughed a little. Okay, Jerry, time to go home. Maybe call people back, rejoin reality. I took a step towards the exit, then stopped, because something moved. I turned slowly, and the ball pit wobbled. Not all of it, just one small section. A gentle ripple, like something underneath had shifted, like a single ball had breathed. I stared. No, I said. Nope, we're not doing this again. The balls settled. Stillness. Silence. I let out a breath I didn't realize I had been holding. Yeah, that's what I thought. I turned back towards the door. Visitor! I froze. Slowly, very slowly, I turned around again. One of the balls near the center of the pit had popped open, and out wiggled a familiar gelatinous shape. Goldorp? I whispered. He beamed, or shimmered, or did whatever it is Goldorp does when he's delighted. You left very quickly, he said, his soft voice unmistakably real. Also, you did not land in soup. Excellent work. My brain tried to process this, and instead made a noise like a dial-up modem falling downstairs. What? I said. Goldorp blinked at me. Are you coming back? We have a new sphere. It might be sandwiches. I stared at him. I stared at the ball pit. At the completely normal, completely impossible world sitting right in front of me. Then I looked at the door. Then back at Goldorp. I really should make that phone call, I said. Goldorp nodded thoughtfully. Responsibilities. Very mysterious. Sometimes avoidable. Sometimes, I agreed. We stood there for a moment. Me, a grown man in an empty arcade, and a creature that absolutely should not exist. Then I smiled. Save me a spot, I said. Goldorp wiggled happily. Always. The ball closed around him with a soft pop. Silence again. Normal. Totally normal. I stood there for a second longer, then shook my head and laughed. Okay, I said. Yeah, sure, that's fine. That's just my life now. I walked out of the arcade, the bell on the door giving a half-hearted jingle. In my pocket, my phone buzzed again. I glanced at it. Then, just for a second, I looked back through the window at the ball pit. Still. Harmless. Waiting. I smiled. And this time, I didn't decline the call. But I didn't forget the way back either. The end. Thank you for listening to this episode of AI, the Artificial Incontinence. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click the bell if you want, and I will be back with more completely absurd stories. Have a wonderful night.